I looked down at the loads of paperwork on the floor as I started crying inside. I wish I could just tell my boss that I was really tired, but that wasn't going to help. Everyone on my job knew that if there was one thing Mr. Michaels hated, that it would be giving his employees a break. Knowing that I had no way out of this, I grabbed the pile of documents on the floor and I dragged myself towards the elevator. I just wished this day would end. As I got to the elevator, I got even more depressed because it just seemed like the whole world was against me. The elevator was down and the maintenance crew had just arrived. That meant that I would have to climb up the stairs up to the 21st floor and get the documents to my boss's office. Wow, that's just great. I sighed loudly as I tried to imagine myself climbing up the 21 flights of stairs. Even the thought of it scared me so much that I decided to wait until the maintenance crew was finished. So I just went over to the side of the stairs where I'd be able to keep an eye on their progress. I didn't want any form of disturbance, so I just sat at the far end of the stairs where no one could see me. I needed a little bit of shut-eye, and this was the perfect opportunity to do it. I felt relaxed as I closed my eyes to sleep for a little bit. I didn't care about the elevator at that moment. However, I didn't get to rest for long as my peaceful environment was interrupted by two sturdy men who were in nice suits. It seemed like they were having an interesting discussion that no one should hear about, judging by the tone of their voice. I couldn't see them clearly because they were on the other side of the stairs, but I could see their outline. Their suits made me think they were businessmen. They continued talking as they also sat on the stairs, waiting for the same reason I was, but I guess they couldn't see me, so I also didn't bother making my presence known. "Do you really think this is gonna work out?" I heard one of the men ask quietly. I tried my best not to listen in, but I just couldn't resist. "I'm sure it will," the other man replied. "I already tried it out with the dummy worker I employed last week. Why else do you think she went missing suddenly?" He smirked. The other one chuckled, but I could sense an uneasiness in his tone. What the hell are they talking about? I thought to myself as I slowly gained interest. Why are these men laughing like that about someone who went missing? This is absurd. Who are these people? With the way they were talking, I knew that making my presence known to them at that point was not an option. "So, do you think these people will invest in our game this time? I mean, we've finally done what they want." The other man, who seemed timid, asked his accomplice, who seemed overly excited about this whole situation. "Of course. Nothing could be more thrilling than the look and feeling of fear those dummies will show as they play our game," the sinister man said with a devilish laugh. "What the hell?" I couldn't help myself as I spoke out. I didn't realize what I did until a few seconds later when I saw the two men in front of me with an angered look on their faces. That was when I knew I had gotten myself into a deep mess. Aw, damn it.
Midnight Stories.
I opened my eyes after what seemed like an eternity of unconsciousness to a beeping sound coming from my right side. Am I in a hospital? I said to myself as I tried to remember the events leading up to this moment, but all I could focus on was the heavy pangs in my head like I'd just been knocked down with something heavy. I looked in the direction of where the beeping sound was coming from in order to get at least an idea of the environment I was in, but all I could see was a dark brown wall. It seems like it's coming from the other room, I thought. I looked around, and the realization of what happened had dawned on me. "I'm being kidnapped!" I exclaimed to myself as I tried to spring on my feet, but I couldn't because a sharp pain shot through my spine. It seemed like I'd been paralyzed or something. Remembering how I got there induced more fear as I tried harder to get up from my crouching position, but it was all in vain. I looked around the room to see 14 people in front of me who were also looking dejected as they all sat in the same corner. I felt so much pity for them until I realized I was in the same situation. We were all kidnapped and hopeless. That was when I was really beginning to understand the mess I had gotten myself into. I wish I had kept my mouth shut in that stairwell. I wish I had done what my mom always taught me, which was keeping my emotions and curiosity in check. My moment of regret brought back the memory of what happened hours ago. The two guys kept looking at me with daggers in their eyes, like they wished to end me at that moment. "How long have you been sitting here?" I shrank back in fear. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk. I swear I wasn't listening to your conversation. I didn't even hear anything of what you were saying. I was here before you got here, so I wasn't sneaking around. Please believe me. All I'm waiting for is the maintenance crew to finish with the elevator. I swear I wasn't listening." I rambled on and on. I didn't need to be a genius to realize what would happen to me if they decided to end me then and there. I was terrified. "But you heard what we discussed, didn't you?" The sinister man crouched down to my level. Suddenly, the anger in his eyes dissipated, and he cracked a sly smile. This just made me even more terrified. "Please, I am so sorry. I will never say a word about it. Please, I beg you. I began to sob profusely as I tried my hardest to plead. Shut up and keep your voice down. Okay, Rick, I think this is going too far. She didn't mean to eavesdrop on us. We can't do this anymore. You promised me that other lady would be the last person. Please, let's not do this anymore. It's getting really messy. The other man tried to reason with his sinister companion, but Rick only confirmed my worst fears about him when he barked in reply. Josh, stop being a baby. I already told you the moment we started this thing. There's no turning back for us. We have to keep doing this. It's our only source of income. And do you actually need me to tell you the amount of money we're making from this? We could never make that much if we worked all night and day, so it's high time you stop acting like a coward and focus on our business here. This is what we chose to do, and we just got another practical human for our game. Isn't that awesome? And stop acting like a saint when you aren't one. Rick seemed to momentarily convince Josh, but it was pretty obvious in his demeanor that he didn't want to do what he was doing, but he had no option, like Rick had told him. Still, I hoped Josh would look at my pleading face and fight for me. I really didn't want to play whatever demented game they had planned. I'm tired of doing this, Josh started. I can't keep doing this, honestly. It's weighing me down. Can we just do it the ones we have already? This lady's innocent. Let's leave her out. Josh tried to plead, but it clearly didn't work. Are you kidding me right now? She heard everything about our game. Are you telling me that you really believe she won't tell anyone? We wouldn't know until we give her the chance, Josh responded. And if she happens to tell people, I'm done with this stupid holier-than-thou act. She's coming with us, and that's final, Rick said flatly. And that was the last thing I remembered as he smacked my head against the wall. Now, I sat down in the middle of the room, which honestly was too small for 15 people. Others were sitting close to the wall, resting their weak bodies against it, while I just sat alone in the middle for what seemed like a long time, until a young-looking lady crawled like a toddler towards me. At first, I wondered why someone who was as old as she was would be crawling like a baby, until I remembered the pain that shot through my spine the moment I tried to stand up. Hi, I know I'm in no position to say this, but you seem more scared than everyone in this room. Everyone else has accepted their fate, but it seems to me that you're scared and in denial. The lady said this so casually. Still, I was suspicious of her, as different thoughts went through my mind. Is she just pretending to be part of us here in order to deceive us all and kill us later? Why does she look like she's okay with everything happening here? What is her deal? The lady spoke up again and interrupted my thoughts. Can you just tell us how to get out of this room? I really don't want to die. I pleaded, and I was sobbing and looking intently at her face. You're really ridiculous. The fact I don't put my emotions on my face doesn't mean I'm the villain. Keep your assumptions to yourself. I'm as miserable as everyone else in this room, but I'm keeping it all in because I already know that there's no way out of this. She busted out angrily at me, which just made me even more mad. I know about this place because Samantha began to talk, but she was interrupted when the people in the wall groaned in pain. What's wrong? What's happened? Samantha and I asked simultaneously. It's getting really hot, a young guy said with tears on his face. What do you mean? What's hot? I quickly went to touch the wall, but immediately jolted back in surprise at how hot the wall had become. This was no ordinary room. This was an oven. Oh no, it started, Samantha muttered to herself. Wait, what's happening? We all asked in unison, but Samantha wasn't listening. You could tell the wheels were spinning in her brain. She was planning her escape. Okay, I really need you guys to believe me now, because this is not the time to doubt me. Doing that will make us end up getting burnt. I know how we can get out of this room, but to accomplish it, we need to work together, Samantha said. Okay, you're really confusing us now. What is happening exactly, and how do we get out of this place? A lady spoke up from behind. This is all a game. It was designed for rich clients that just love the feeling of seeing people scared and begging for their lives. They're all a bunch of psychopaths, including Rick himself. In order for us to get out of this room, we must solve the problem presented to us, which is the boiling room right now. I got to know this place because I once worked for Rick, the person who designed the game. I just got employed as his apprentice, and I got to see this mistakenly. That was why he kidnapped me, she explained. Oh, you're the dummy employee, I said aloud as I remembered Rick's conversation in the stairwell. So what do we do? How do we get out of here? Because it's getting really hot in here, I asked Samantha. She looked around for a while until she stopped her gaze at something on the opposite side of the wall. We all looked in that direction, and we saw what looked like a door handle on the upper right side of the wall. Looking at the wall closely this time, we finally saw that there was an outline of something that seemed to be a door. At that moment, we didn't need anyone to tell us that that door was our escape. Normally, reaching that door would not have been a problem, but we all felt excruciating pain every time we tried to move. We looked down wearily as we realized the daunting task in front of us. This is exactly what they want. They want us to look helpless as they torment us. We need to do something, or we're all gonna die here. It's either we find a way out, or we all burn to death for their entertainment, Samantha said bluntly. Look guys, I know it's gonna hurt like hell, but we have to try and stand up and climb up to that door. That's our only way out, I said as everyone nodded in agreement. Without wasting another moment, we all got to the very painful business of trying to get on our feet. It was indeed painful for everyone, as we were all screaming in agony, but we didn't back down. We continued to try and stand up gradually, as we made sure we weren't making contact with the boiling wall. As we all struggled to our feet, everyone looked lost in thought, because we knew that we were about to make some painful decisions. In order for everyone to get out of the room safely, at least one person had to be at the bottom lifting us up. I didn't want to be that person, and I'm sure no one else wanted to either. After what seemed like an eternity, we finally got up on our feet. I could feel my entire body shaking from the pain, and all I wanted to do in that moment was fall back on the floor to relieve it, but I knew I couldn't do that, so I endured. No, all we need to do is get up to that spot. Samantha took the lead fearlessly. This made me understand why she was so calm earlier. She was the type of person that could keep a cool head in high-stakes situations, because she understood that panicking wouldn't solve her problems. This made me feel bad for suspecting her earlier. Without wasting another second, we all followed behind her. The room was getting hotter as each second passed, and the walls began to crack like hot coals. The room could collapse at any second. When we reached the spot underneath the door, Samantha, our fearless leader, made the decision no one else would. She would be the one to stay on the floor and make sure we all got out. And before I knew it, she and I were the only ones left in the room. You go first, and you pull me up once you get outside, Samantha said, as she tried to muster all of her remaining strength to lift me up. It was obvious that she wanted to be the one to carry the burden for everyone. For that, I was grateful, and I wanted to return the favor. She was suffering just as much as everyone else, so I tried all my best to get out as soon as possible. The people at the top pulled me out. Samantha, give me your hand, I shouted. The room had become an inferno by the time I escaped. Before I could get a hold of her hands, the people at the top pulled me back. I looked back in anger, and then I heard a loud cracking sound coming from Samantha's direction. I looked back, but nothing was there. The room had collapsed completely. No! Samantha's still in there! I screamed as tears ran down my face. I felt disgusted with myself for letting someone die just to save me. And then I felt terrified of everyone else in the room. If they were given the chance to choose again between their lives and mine, I might be the next person who would end up like Samantha. She's gone. A very familiar, sinister voice came from the other side of the room. I looked back towards where the voice was coming from, as everyone took fearful steps backward. We waited fearfully to see who was talking with us, until two silhouettes emerged in the shadows. Enough of all this crying and sobbing. There's no fun in that. Let's get to the next stage of the game, which will be much more interesting. And I gotta be honest, I like that there's a nice, even number now. A dummy employee of mine was indeed meant to die here, Rick said with a mocking laugh, as Josh, who was beside him, was just looking down in shame of what he had become. Now, on to the next game. Everyone pair up right now, Rick said with a stern voice. We all hurried to partner up. I ended up with the girl named Mirabelle. Rick said with a smile before he continued. Now this game is called Survival of the Fittest. Or should I say, only the survivors will get to play the next round, Rick added. What do you mean? I'll never kill my wife, and she'll never kill me, the guy spoke up from the back. I think they were the only couple among us. Before we could look back at the defiant husband, all we heard was 2 gunshots, and we saw 2 lifeless bodies laying on the ground. Rick wasn't playing around. We had no time to mourn our fallen companions. Enough of this, Rick. We all froze as Josh abruptly spoke up. We looked and saw that Rick and Josh were pointing guns at each other, like they knew this moment was a long time coming. I knew you'd turn on me, you coward, Rick retorted. I can't allow you to do this anymore. This is getting out of hand, and the police are getting suspicious of us. Too many people are getting killed because we want to make our money. This is wrong. Can't do this anymore, Josh said, pleading to Rick, hoping that would change his mind. Then get out. That was the last thing Rick said as we heard 2 gunshots fire simultaneously, making us all crouch in fear to hide away from the impact of the partners fighting. We expected to hear Rick's evil laugh, but we didn't hear anything. We looked up in curiosity only to see Rick and Josh's bodies lying on the floor, with blood streaming from their chests. They were both struggling with their wounds. Run, Josh grumbled as he choked on his blood and slid us the key to the room. Immediately, I came to my senses. There it was, the chance for us to leave that wretched place. I rushed to grab the key, but I was terrified when I felt a grip on my heel. I looked, and I saw Rick's sinister grin looking up at me. Now what do you guys take me for? Do you really think you can easily get away from me? I knew Josh would betray me, so I prepared in advance. He was dumb enough to think that just one bullet could take me down, he said with a scary laugh as he slowly got up from where he was. Dear partner, you have no choice right now than to watch these people suffer. After that, I'll deal with you the way I see fit. I've always told you not to test my patience, but you're so stupid to do otherwise, and I'll show you the price of that, Rick said to Josh. What are you all looking at? Partner up now, Rick shouted with fury. Each group would have to fight each other one after the other for their survival. Immediately, the first group began their fight, as the rest of us just watched them in tears, because we knew we would soon be in their shoes. Rick was the only one finding this amusing, because he was just laughing on and on as the two ladies fought each other at the center of the room. I watched in horror as the first fight came to an end, and the loser laid lifeless on the floor. Yes! That's what I'm talking about. That's how you can survive in this world. Isn't that refreshing, young lady? Rick shouted with joy and laughing at what the lady did, while the so-called winner realized that they had just taken a life. Get up, girl, you won! Rick shouted at her again, while the lady couldn't even do anything than just look at what she had done. She looked at the corpse of the lady on the floor with tears gushing out of her face as she ran to the other side of the room in fear of what she had become. It was obvious that she was so scared of herself, and she was more scared of becoming someone like Rick. You'll get used to it, Rick mocked before he continued. Next! With that, the second group got to the center of the room. It was a guy and a lady, and just like everyone thought, the guy won, as he ran to the other side of the room sobbing without looking away from his bloody hands. Gradually, the groups went to the center of the room for their fights, one after the other, until Mirabelle and I were the last group to fight. This was when my anxiety reached a climax. I turned to look at Mirabelle, who was totally despondent. She walked closely behind me as she clutched my arm. I don't want to do this. I don't want to die, and I don't want to hurt you. I can't deal with it. Please, let's do something. She pleaded with me while the only thing I could do was sob harder. I was much more scared than she was. I also didn't want to die. More so, I didn't want to become a murderer, because I wouldn't be able to live with myself. That option was worse than death. I was still hating myself for leaving Samantha alone in the boiling room earlier, even when I knew from the get-go the last person in that room would die. I felt like I contributed to her death, even when I didn't. So how could I bring myself to directly kill an innocent person? We have to do this, Mirabelle. Just do something to me. I'd rather die than kill you. I had made my decision. I would not kill. I decided to surrender myself in order to save Mirabelle's life, as I hoped one day she would find the help necessary to free her from the emotional burden she'd have to carry. No, I'll never do that to you, Mirabelle sobbed. Do I look like I want to watch an emotional moment between the both of you? Why are you acting like you're family? You just met each other, so stop acting like you're a damn saint and get to business. I want to watch, Rick shouted at us. This did nothing but affirm the fact that we were indeed in a hot mess at that moment, so Mirabelle and I had no choice than to face each other with a fighting pose as we got ready to play Rick's game. However, none of us could bring ourselves to deal the first strike. Do you girls need me to motivate you? Rick said in annoyance as he lifted up his gun to fire at us, but dropped his arms abruptly as he clutched his heart. What's happening? What's wrong? Everyone in the room whispered. We were all still wondering what was happening until we heard a shrill laugh come from where Josh's body was lying. We'd all forgotten about him earlier, but we were more shocked when we saw who actually laughed. It must have gotten to your heart. That was fast, Samantha said as she emerged from the shadows. Wait, what's happening? I thought to myself as I saw Samantha, who was supposed to have died in that blazing coffin. What do you mean? How are you alive? Rick coughed as he fell on his knees in pain. You're surprised, right? Aw. What can I say? I'm not someone that you can walk all over, Rick, she replied with a more devilish laugh. You really should have made sure I was dead too. I was only unconscious, and then you idiots just left me lying there. And because you stopped burning the room, I had time to find another way out. I knew you were both at odds with the way you fought in the office the other day, so I did something to Josh's bullet, because I knew there would be a need for it. You really shouldn't have excluded me. I've expressed several times my interest to join your sick game. Sammy, what have you done? Please. Rick groaned in pain as he was practically rolling on the floor. Nothing much. I just laced the bullet with a poison that slowly works its way to people's hearts once it gets in contact with the bloodstream. I guess it's finally gotten to your heart now. Never in a million years would you think that one bullet could kill you. I guess I'm smarter than you after all, Samantha said, with a sinister laugh, this time as Rick was now groaning in pain on the floor. I should have believed my gut when I suspected Samantha. I just couldn't say anything as I looked at her in awe and fear. All of a sudden, I saw Josh trying to lift himself up from the floor like he was struggling to say something. I wasn't sure about what he was mumbling because he was far away. Then he started to laugh with his last energy as he finally laid lifelessly on the floor. I guess he was finally dead. And soon after, Rick clutched his heart for about a minute until he also laid on the floor lifelessly. It seemed to everyone else in the room like an unfolding drama. The silence was interrupted when Samantha spoke up with a gun in her hand. So guys, you're shocked, right? Don't be, because we still have a lot of fun left in store. Rick was pretty boring with his games, so I'm thinking of upgrading it to something more interesting. Before she could even continue, we heard another gunshot, and Samantha fell to the floor. We looked in the direction of the gunshot, only to see who was the winner of the first fight. She was holding Rick's gun with a focused look in her eyes. "Damn you all, we are not your puppets," she said with anger flaring in her eyes, as the rest of us just stood in fear. We were all too scared to move. So with a bold step, I approached the key, picked it up, and approached the door. I looked back again at Rick, Samantha, and Josh to see that they weren't moving. At this moment, we didn't need anyone to tell us what to do next, as we ran out of the room as fast as we could before this sick game took another twist. And that was the most unforgettable day of my life.